I remember the moment my lie began, the sound of my mother's laughter from the kitchen, the hum of the ceiling fan struggling against the heat, and the weight of her hand. My partner's hand. Warm in mine. Trembling just slightly, I let go before my mother walked in. "Sweetheart," my mom said, her voice bright. "You must be the friend we've heard so much about." And I smiled. Because that's what I did when I was scared. I smiled, I nodded, and I lied. That night, the person I loved most met the people who raised me. But not one of them knew who she really was. And even though no one else noticed it, I felt something inside me splinter quietly. That was the first time I learned that lying can keep the peace. But it can also destroy the very thing you're trying to protect. Before that dinner, I lived in two parallel worlds. In one, I was the dutiful daughter. Polite, cautious, predictable. The one who called home every Sunday. Who brought gifts on birthdays. Who laughed at all the right moments, and never talked too much about herself. And in the other world, I was free. I was me. I was the girl who held hands with another woman under city lights, who kissed her in quiet moments, who dreamed of a life where love didn't have to be edited for anyone's comfort. But those worlds could never meet, or so I thought. You see, my coming out journey wasn't one big brave moment. It was hundreds of small decisions. Each one a calculation about who I could trust, how much truth I could risk, how much of myself I could safely reveal. And the scariest part wasn't other people. It was me. Because after years of pretending, I had become fluent in my own silence. So when my partner, Maya, looked at me one morning and said, "I think it's time I meet your family," I froze. My first instinct was panic. My second was guilt. And my third was a well-rehearsed lie. "Yeah," I said, "I'd love that." But deep down, I knew I didn't mean it. I wasn't ready. And worse, I wasn't sure I ever would be. The day came faster than I expected. All week I had rehearsed every possible version of the night. The questions they'd ask. The stories I'd tell. The lies I'd use to stitch it all together neatly. When the evening finally arrived, I could feel the fear vibrating inside me, like static under my skin. We parked in front of the house, and I could see the kitchen light glowing through the window. That light used to mean safety to me. That night, it felt like a spotlight. Maya looked at me and said softly, "You're shaking." I laughed. I always shake when I'm excited. Another lie. Inside, my mom was already setting the table. My dad came out from the living room with that big, welcoming grin of his, and for a second, I let myself imagine what it would be like if I could introduce her the way I wanted to. "This is Maya, the love of my life." But instead, what came out was, "This is my friend Maya." And with that word, friend, the night began. Dinner smelled like home. Garlic, rice, the sweetness of coconut milk. My mother talked endlessly. My father asked questions. My brother teased me about work. Everything felt normal. But beneath the laughter, I could feel the distance building between Maya and me. An invisible wall I had built brick by brick with my silence. And then, it happened. The question I had feared all week. "So?" my mother asked, smiling. "Maya, are you seeing anyone?" The room went still. Even the air paused. Maya's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. She glanced at me, and I saw in her eyes the question she didn't want to ask. "Do I lie too?" Before she could speak, I jumped in. "She's way too busy for that." Everyone laughed. Everyone except her. She smiled, but it wasn't real. It was the kind of smile that hides a wound. And as the laughter died down, I realized that I had done it again. I had erased her and us from my own story. After dinner, I walked her to the car. The night was heavy with the smell of rain, and the sound of crickets filled the silence between us. She didn't speak at first, just stood there, looking at me with a quiet disappointment I couldn't bear to meet. Finally she said, "You don't have to apologize." "I wasn't going to," I said, automatically defensively. She nodded, but her voice trembled when she spoke again. Do you know what it feels like to sit next to the person you love and pretend you're nobody to them? Her words hit me like a punch I'd been bracing for, because I did know. I had spent my whole life pretending to be somebody else. I just didn't want to make things complicated, I said. It sounded pathetic even to my own ears. She gave a small, humorless laugh. Complicated? You think hiding who we are makes it simpler? And then she said the one thing that broke me. You talk about how much you love your family. But if you can't be yourself around them, what kind of love is that? I had no answer. She opened the car door, and before she got in, she said quietly, I don't want to be your secret. She drove away, and I stood there, watching her taillights disappear into the dark. That night I lay awake replaying every moment, every laugh, every lie, every glance. And somewhere between shame and grief, I realized something brutal. I had been so afraid of losing my family that I hadn't noticed I was losing her. But the twist, the part I didn't see coming, was what happened next. A week later, my mom called me. Her voice was soft, almost casual. She said, I saw that picture you posted of you and Maya. You two look so happy together. My chest tightened. I hadn't posted anything. Turns out Maya had. It was an old photo. Me kissing her cheek, both of us laughing. It wasn't hidden behind filters or captions. It was just us, real, unedited. I waited for my mother to sound angry, disappointed. But instead she said, I always knew, you know. I was just waiting for you to tell me. My heart stopped. All this time I'd been preparing for rejection, and she had been waiting with open hands. She said, You don't need to hide, honey, not from us. And I cried, not because she accepted me, but because I realized how many years I had wasted expecting her not to. Before that moment, I thought love and safety couldn't exist in the same room. That if I wanted to be loved, I had to stay silent. That if I wanted peace, I had to lie. But after, I understood that silence isn't peace, it's just the absence of honesty. Before, I thought my fear protected me. After, I saw it for what it really was. A cage I built myself. I thought coming out would ruin my family. But all it ruined was the illusion that they wouldn't understand. That's what I've learned about lesbian stories. They're not just about falling in love. They're about fighting for the right to tell the truth about that love. To say, this is who I am, and not have to whisper it. My coming out journey didn't happen at that dinner table. It happened in the moments after. In the tears, the conversations, the rebuilding of trust. It happened when I learned that truth doesn't always cause chaos. Sometimes it heals. And it's strange, really, how something as simple as saying someone's name out loud, the right way, can feel like freedom. The next time Maya came to dinner, I didn't introduce her as my friend. I said, This is Maya, she's my girlfriend. My mom smiled. My dad nodded. And the world didn't end. It didn't explode or collapse or shatter, it just kept turning. Only now, I was finally part of it. That night I realized something simple but profound. The truth doesn't destroy what's real, it only destroys what's fragile. And what's real, love, family, connection, it always survives. If you're listening to this and you're somewhere on your own queer journey, if you're scared to tell the truth, if you're stuck between fear and honesty, please know this. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to start being real with yourself. Because lies might protect you for a while, but they will never let you breathe. And I promise you, the world feels different when you stop holding your breath. You might lose some people along the way, but the ones who stay, they'll love you in a way that doesn't ask you to shrink. The first time my partner met my family, I told a lie because I was afraid of losing love. But what I learned later is that love built on lies isn't love at all. Now I live in the truth. Messy, imperfect, but honest. And every time I say her name without hesitation, I feel lighter. I feel free. So if you've ever hidden who you are, if you've ever called love by a safer name just to feel accepted, you're not alone. We've all done it. But one day, You'll wake up and realize you don't want safe anymore. You want true. And when that day comes, your life won't just begin again. It'll finally belong to you. If my story resonates with you, if you've ever been caught between fear and truth, I'd love to hear your story in the comments, because when we share our truths, we remind each other that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to love yourself through it. And if you want more real, human, lesbian stories and queer voices about love, family, and becoming who you are, subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your own courage. Because every story like this makes it a little easier for the next one to be told. And that's how we change the world, one truth at a time.